Before the judge, weeping bitterly, begging. "I am guilty of a serious crime," she said. "I feel as if I am in the middle of a..." service at New York's Hale House, where she would care for AIDS babies and their mothers. Mrs. Helmsley stood before the judge, weeping bitterly, begging. "I am guilty of a serious crime," she said. "I feel as if I am in the middle of a nightmare. A few years ago, I lost my only child. I beg you, don't let me lose Harry, too." But Judge Walker was unswayed. He sentenced her to 4 years in prison, 3 years of community service, $7.1 million in fines, penalties, and back taxes, which will total nearly $10 million. After the sentencing, Harry Helmsley slowly made his way toward his wife. She reached out for him, hugged him, and cried bitter tears. Early in the summer, Harry Helmsley was ruled too senile to stand trial, but it was the lifestyle of both Helmsleys that removed his wife from her pedestal. The couple cheated the government out of more than $1 million in taxes. Elaborate renovations of their lavish Connecticut estate were billed to the Helmsley businesses. Mrs. Helmsley routinely charged off girdles and bras, shoes, crossword puzzles, jewelry, and a $45,000 clock to the Helmsley business empire. Those maneuvers enabled the couple to take tax deductions they didn't deserve. Leona Helmsley's co-defendant, Joseph LeCarry, received 2.5 years in prison and a $75,000 fine. Her other former employee, Frank Turco, received 2 years and a $50,000 fine. This was a humiliating day for Leona Helmsley. There was a standing room crowd watching as she pleaded unsuccessfully for mercy. The judge told her she exhibited an arrogant belief that she was above the law. And as she wept today, as she and her lawyer made their case for leniency, it seemed as though Leona Helmsley still believed that she was a victim, not only of the government, but of a relentless press. Now remember, Leona Helmsley is not going directly to prison. She will be free on bail. That bail hasn't been set yet while her attorneys are appealing.
Okay, thank you, Barbara.
That process means a lot now that we know the sentence. Questions do remain about the
world, and along with her billionaire husband, owned what most would consider a large chunk of it. Most Americans got to know Leona Helmsley as the demanding queen standing guard over a chain of luxury hotels bearing the Helmsley name. Her husband, Harry's real estate empire, owns hundreds of gleaming skyscrapers, including the Empire State Building. And then there is the palatial 28-room Connecticut estate, the estate that proved to be Leona Helmsley's downfall. A federal jury this summer convicted Mrs. Helmsley of evading taxes, this by charging millions of dollars in renovations that were made to the Connecticut home as business expenses to the hotel chain. Harry Helmsley was originally charged, along with his wife, but he was severed from the case and declared medically unable to stand trial. There are those who argue that Leona Helmsley was done in by her own greed and by a personality that turned many of her employees against her, employees who later testified for the government. Leona Helmsley, say some, led a storybook life, a storybook with an unhappy ending. Two of Mrs. Helmsley's co